With the general election fast approaching, one issue that certainly needs addressing is bedroom tax in the UK. Two people who have fallen victims to the bedroom tax are Keenan and his son Mitchell, who had all of his toes amputated as he was forced to spend winter in a tent after being evicted from his house.
I was living in Evicted and then we got kicked out. So I ended up moving in with my sister just for 2 weeks until I got the one in Tenhouse. But then I got kicked out of that one in July, and that's how I ended up in the tent.
And what was the experience of living in the tent?
Terrible, horrible. I slept on one side of the tent 'cause it's a big tent. So I stayed on one side and my dad stayed on the other. And we were sleeping on like camping beds. But one of the doors on the tent was broke. So when it was raining or windy or cold, it was always coming in.
With the conditions freezing and wet, the situation certainly wasn't helped with the severe health problems Keith already had, including dementia and epilepsy.
It was extremely difficult because where the tent was situated on the doctor's surgery, I had to remember where I was, how to get to Stanhope Road and how to get to the doctors from there. It was extremely hard. And then I had to get my medication from the chemists and then try and go back to the beacon point and remember where it was. A couple of times I got lost, but I did eventually find my way back to the tent.
Having very little support from organisations and social services, Keith's sister Dawn tried everything she could within her power to help her brother and nephew Mitchell when evicted, and bought them their tent and sleeping bags. With Dawn herself suffering from serious health and neurological conditions and being a single parent, it was too difficult to offer accommodation in her own house.
There's been loads of comments on Facebook and that, yeah, why didn't the sister take them in? And they've been quite cruel, and it was just hard. It was hard having to see them like that, you know what I mean? But I did what I could. I got them food parcels, and Margaret Heighton from Skem Food Bank was brilliant. She just gave me the food parcels for them, and the Trussell Trust in Skelmersdale. And I just tried my best to keep them alive, and I went to every organisation and no one was interested, no one wanted to know. And I used to lie in bed thinking they're not gonna be here tomorrow because it was so cold. And I thought they were gonna die.
Sleeping in a tent over winter for 8 months in effectively a bush off the main road took its toll on Mitchell and ultimately suffered from frostbite, which led to all of his toes being amputated.
It's affected my life, you know, walking, because it's painful all the time, and getting out and about, which I don't like going out anyway.
Labour's parliamentary candidate for West Lancashire, Rosie Cooper, who is working close with the family, said, "I've met with Mitchell, and for a young man to have his toes amputated is a real tragedy and shouldn't have been allowed to happen. I'm working with Mitchell and his family on his case to ensure that he receives the support he needs."
It's somebody's responsibility, not my son, because he didn't deserve that whatsoever. So somebody is answerable for the situation that he found himself in, to have his toes amputated, which is not on.
West Lancashire Borough Council were given the opportunity to speak on camera but declined and gave us this statement. A court order for possession of 42 Heversham Birch Green, where one of the gentlemen referred to as a tenant, was obtained in 2010. Due to arrears which had accumulated over a number of years, the council took possession of the property in December 2013. Temporary accommodation was provided in December 2013 and appropriate support offered to the former tenant concerned. The council is not able to provide further details for data protection reasons. However, neither of these occurrences resulted directly from the spare room subsidy. With Mitchell and his dad Keith being offered temporary accommodation by West Lancashire Borough Council and Stoneham Housing respectively, this was the spec to the left of me, where they had to pitch a tent over the winter months. This an extreme case that certainly shouldn't be happening in the 21st century, particularly to vulnerable adults.
They were close to death. They were, because The doctor in Liverpool Hospital said he could have got blood poisoning because of like what was happening with his feet. You know what I mean? So they were very close to death. This could have been a report about them being dead. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, I urge the government, please think again, please rethink this sanctioning and this bedroom tax process, because you're picking, it's like you're picking on the most vulnerable in society, and it's so wrong, and you've got to stop it. And I say, please, I beg you, please stop it.
Nathan Griffiths, Bay TV Liverpool.